Well, hello everybody. Welcome to our first Sticky Bleachers podcast. I'm Bobby,
And my name is Corey, reporting live from Dublin, Ireland.
and I'm reporting from beautiful Dubuque, Iowa.
Beautiful Dubuque, Iowa.
Beautiful Dubuque, Iowa, along the banks of the beautiful Mississippi.
What's the temperature there in January back in Iowa, Bob?
Oh, it's a brisk, I'd say 15 degrees out. So
Okay.
we're getting into the really, really cold part of the winter. So
Dublin actually got near 15 degrees today, although it was near 15 Celsius last couple days.
Gotcha.
We've had a bit of a heat streak here in January. It's been quite rainy. There's flooding all over the country of Ireland. But very, very briefly, as you can tell, I don't sound like a Dubliner. Both Bob and myself grew up in beautiful Dubuque, Iowa.
beautiful Dubuque.
And we are like so many fans before us, just a couple of guys who have been lifelong friends, lifelong sports fans, using the free stuff on the internet to make a sports property podcast and Twitter account and YouTube channel and who knows what else. Would you say that's about right, Bob?
I'd say it's a very accurate description of what we're trying to do here.
And just like most podcasts in the sports world who are just a couple of goofballs on a Davenport in a basement, you can expect all the same things from us. You can expect improvised shows, unprofessional behavior, the utter lack of experienced and knowledgeable guests. We may someday have distinguished guests like other high school friends also from beautiful Dubuque, Iowa.
Exactly. Yes. We have no inside analysis or expert opinions or anything like that, but we do have opinions, so we'll just do that, right?
Yes, and right now it's just us two. Hopefully we will be able to bring some other voices in here just so that we don't get too sick of each other, and anyone who does unfortunately download this also get too sick of us. If you haven't been aware so far, we do have a very active Twitter account where we share sports stories and things that we like. We like to live tweet games. Bob is a very, very apt Tecmo Bowl screenshot capturer and enjoys tweeting out from our Twitter account updates on games with our real-time Tecmo Bowl rosters. We also have a YouTube channel that we upload game simulations that we like to call our Sticky Bleachers series that we've had a good time with. We've done baseball, we've done a lot of football recently, we've done professional wrestling, and hopefully we can work a lot more into it in the coming weeks.
Still looking forward to that the golf Tecmo Bowl that we're going to be doing.
We're going to have to, because we're going to be entering the sports doldrums here, Bob. Before you know it, we're going to be in the worst sports season of the year.
Yes, where very little is going on, but it's where we make the most of it. We can get into some really obscure sports.
I guess that is like
watch some badminton.
Yeah, it's like that February, that post Super Bowl letdown is just like, oh man, like the NBA is not there for me yet. For most casual NBA fans, it's not there. You've got
it's the countdown to pitchers and catchers reporting for baseball. That's when we can really start getting into it.
I know, but that's all you can do. You can sit there and wait. It's like, the baseball winter stuff. College basketball is in kind of the meat of conference play, which is nice, but if you're just following a couple of teams, you've got a game about every 3 or 4 days, and then you just sit and all the sports media is just full of projections, retrospectives on the last season. There's always very little news. This is we're in the second meaty nugget. The first meaty nugget in the sports year is that fall when baseball's still going and football's just kicked off.
Yep. I absolutely agree. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. This is definitely the second wave of it, but it's really fun.
Yes.
And I always think at the end of March Madness, after all the college basketball stuff is kind of played out, I always kick myself for not paying attention enough throughout the season to kind of really know who's good, just kind of blindly going into it. So maybe this year in the dog days of February, I'll start paying more attention to the college basketball, really get into it. So
there you go. You're going to get your hands on that hot ESPN3 subscription. You can catch all of those games on demand.
I know. Man,
if you've got the right cable provider and you've got a little bit of money, you can get all the basketball you want.
Spreadsheets galore. Just tons of info.
I'll leave that to you, Bob.
Oh yeah, me and the thousands of other people. But no, it's a fun time of year. Definitely with the NFL playoffs starting and basketball is kicked into full gear now. Obviously, the Warriors are just running away with the league right now, but definitely exciting time for sports.
Yes.
So we won't think about the bad times coming.
Oh, that's right. Well, shall we get into our news this week, Bob?
Oh, absolutely. We got some very fun things happening this week. Baseball Hall of Famers were inducted. Ken Griffey Jr. and Mike Pepperoni Piazza were inducted into the Hall of Fame this yesterday.
Yes, noted World Baseball Classic participant for Italy, Mike Pepperoni Piazza.
Exactly. Jeff Brown, Paper Bagwell almost got in there as well, but
yes,
maybe next year. And Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds saw doubling of their votes to get into the Hall of Fame. So it could be an indication of possibly being in the Hall of Fame later on. What do you think about that, Corey?
Well, I'm not sure. The Clem and Big Barry, boy, it's going to be tough now that and this has been said all over the sports world to death forever for like the last 5 years, is that when the steroid era generation of players starts becoming Hall of Fame eligible, what do we do? How do we handle it? What's going to go on with that? And I am not, thankfully for me, for my own sanity, I am not a baseball purist. I am not a defender of classic baseball stats and needing explanations anytime one of the great, by the way, racist, sexist, wife beating, chain smoking, whiskey guzzling, amphetamine taking players from the 1920s and 30s, once their records fall, I don't get mad like so many historians. So I don't really care what they do. If Bonds gets in, all right. Clemens, fine, no problem. I don't know.
Absolutely. I agree with you as well. I love baseball very, very much, and I want certain aspects of the game to always stay the same. So in ways I am a purist, but also, I mean, this game is built on cheating, and everyone's cheated ever since the game started. So
yes,
it's a constant ability to get an edge on somebody, and it's everyone's a time and a place. So. And, Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, I mean, really their only connection to steroids or PEDs is through the Mitchell Report or allegations and stuff. So, obviously, we can look at Barry Bonds' head over the last 20 years and see that probably something has happened. But for sure, what they did on the field was remarkable. And I believe they'll end up being in the Hall of Fame eventually. So
yes, I'm also looking forward to the day, Bob, when the Hall of Fame voting transfers from the old guard of baseball writers who write for print publication into baseball bloggers, into baseball Twitterers. Because if they're going to go with the real baseball journos, the real people who are covering the sport, as fewer and fewer newspapers can send their reporters on a beat. All of these are in air quotes because these seem like such old-fashioned words now. Newspaper and beat writers.
I've heard of those things.
You've heard of those things. That's right. We've all known, like, who's the guy who's beaten the Chicago White Sox? He's got the scoop today. What's the column from Gene Shashinsky covering the Chicago White Sox? Like,
he was as tall as a mountain, and he could hit it as far as a football field.
Yes. Breaking the record of the great Ty Cobb, the man who will never die.
Except he will, from cirrhosis of the liver. But anyway.
Yeah. See, that's another character that people are like, we got to hold up the records. Got to get the record book. Yep. Ty Cobb
can't in the records, I do love that they are so... Some of them are just absolutely amazing, and some of them are just a time and a place where, like Ted Williams is one of the best hitters for sure, but he also, faced, 10, 12 teams consistently. So he saw a lot of the same hitters all the time, or saw a lot of the same pitchers all the time, which definitely helped his batting knowledge. So when you have to face 29 other teams in a year many, many times, it just makes those certain records like hitting 400 or 200 hits and stuff in a season, just makes it a little more valuable, but you have to also have context for it.
Yes.
So.
Also, the era of relief pitchers, and
exactly.
you're not seeing one starter who has to go out and pitch 9 innings on a 4-man rotation all season long. You're right about that. They're seeing a lot more players. But, I think that the best part is that so many of these records by these old racists are beaten by black men and Hispanics. that I just think Ty Cobb and company and Babe Ruth and all those guys would just hate to see their records fall to people different.
Well, Yeah, and Ty Cobb for sure was a racist. Babe Ruth, I don't believe was, but yes, a lot of them were.
Oh, I reserve the right to criticize people from 70 years ago at today's standards. So I completely reserve that right. Like my grandfather, who I just lost recently, total racist, and he was just as racist as everyone of his generation. But I go ahead and hold them to maybe unfairly to today's standards, and someday. 90 years from now, someone will probably call me all kinds of names by standards of the future.
Well, good you put that out there. I'm glad that disclaimer's out there for the world. So.
Yes, well, speaking of on the Hall of Fame, on the note here for Messrs. Piazza and Griffey Jr., we have a comment on the Yahoo announcement. This is from commenter. Back in 1995, I recall Sweet Drunken Lou saying that A-Rod and Junior would combine for 1,000 career home runs with all the steroids and hormones they ingest. What do you think about that, Bob?
Well, wow. I can't discredit the commenter's comment, but
Sweet Drunken Lou in 1995.
Sweet Drunken Lou, yeah. There's no doubt that he was drunk in 95.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, that's one of the things with Griffey getting in. There's talk of the unanimous vote and whatever that entails, but I think Griffey and his lack of connection to PEDs and his again, we go back to like the purity of the game because he embodied that so much. It's one of those things that I don't think anyone's going to talk about it, even if it ever did happen. So nothing's really ever come out, and his name's really never been dragged through the mud with this stuff. So baseball likes to put him on the pedestal and say, look at the kid. So
look at the kid. That's right. But clearly, Sweet Drunken Lou took issue with him all the way back in 1995 when the Super NES games bearing the kid's face, where the ink was barely dry on the Super NES cartridges as they were being sent out. This was even pre his N64 game, if my timeline lines up correctly.
Oh yeah. Well, and if we're looking at timelines, A-Rod and his cousin, I don't think they started using steroids until they got to the Texas Rangers. So. I don't know if they were taking steroids in the Seattle days or not, but definitely. I mean, well, Piazza had to deal with at least the suspicion of PEDs, and that stopped him from getting in for the last couple of years. So it's you can see it's one of those things that can definitely affect the Hall of Fame. But I'm going to go on a limb. I'm going to say I'm not a big fan of the Hall of Fame. I really don't. I mean, it's nice I'm sure it's nice for the players to get in there and everything like that, but I think too big of a deal is made out of who gets in and who doesn't get in. Because somebody like Ken Griffey Jr., I mean, everyone loved watching Ken Griffey Jr. Prettiest swing you'll ever see on the baseball field. But also, like, it's part of the reason why he's in the Hall of Fame is because he doesn't have the steroids attached to him. If he had any inkling of steroids attached to him, he would be in the same position as Barry Bonds or Roger Clemens right now. So
that's right.
It's a very calculated move for sure, and part of the reason why the baseball writers still are the ones in charge of voting him in and kind of protecting that holy grail of baseball. So
I totally agree in just the growing irrelevance of the Hall of Fame. In other sports, the Hall of Fame ceremony is much more low-key. No one really knows. Most people don't really care who goes into the Hall of Fame of other sports. Baseball has the historical connection, but I think that's going to become more and more eroded, as you said. Mm-hmm. As baseball writers go away, they're going to lose their power. Eventually, it's going to be a Survey Monkey poll, I think, sent out by the MLB to all of the paid subscribers to the on-demand streaming packages from which we are going to someday get all of our sports content. I believe will someday be pay-per-view or just paid subscriptions. The TV model is also going to be old, but I think that's probably decades in the future. So for now, we've got to deal with Hall of Fames and Hall of Fame controversies.
Right. And until we get the fan voting for the All-Star game figured out, I don't think they're going to be handing over the reins to the Hall of Fame anytime soon. But also, we'll have Omar Infante in the Hall of Fame here, and half the Kansas City Royals who've ever existed. But
I love it, and the users from Latvia can get their own boy sent to the All-Star game here too.
Yeah, right.
All right.
I will say though, on the final note, Cooperstown, New York is very fun though. So if you ever do get a chance to go to Cooperstown, it is very fun.
Never been, but hope to someday. Well, let's say we move on to some football action here, Bobbert.
Yeah, on Monday we have Clemson versus Alabama for the NCAA National Championship. Should be an exciting game. Corey, who do you got?
I am going to say it's Alabama. After watching the playoff game, it's going to be very, very hard to pick a team that has been suspect most of the year and shown vulnerability. I know Alabama has shown their own weaknesses, but I think coming out of the ACC, we just don't know. We saw it happen with, the two top Big Ten teams in both Iowa and Michigan State getting crushed when they met top-tier competition outside their conference. I'm guessing that that's going to be happening with Clemson as well. How about you, Bob?
Well, I kind of agree. I really want Clemson to win. I don't want Nick Saban or Alabama to hoist another title above their heads. But I think you're right, though. The difference in all the conferences and stuff like that really kind of shine when the bowl games are played. And you really see, not that Clemson won't put up a fight. I think they won't be shut out like Michigan State was or score some late garbage points like Iowa did.
Yes.
But I was impressed with Clemson's first game, though. They seem to play very well. And they, obviously, with the pressures of being number one all year long, they've handled it and beat the people that they need to beat. So I'm rooting for them. I hope that they can do it. But also, there is speculation if Nick Saban wins a title. Well, and there's always been speculation, but that he'll leave and he'll go somewhere else, so we can follow the Nick Saban show somewhere else.
Oh, boy. I am so bored with that Nick Saban show. I'm sure he's a nice guy. I saw all the things. But just I'm just so tired. I'm just so tired, Bob.
It's kind of nice that he's just in Alabama, It's just, you can send him off to Alabama. No one really outside of Alabama has to deal with him or see him or anything like that. It's kind of nice.
That's
right.
It's
better than being at the Dolphins or any other major stage.
That's true. Now I agree with you, Bob, that I would rather not see Alabama fans have one more championship about which to brag, and part of that is for selfish reasons, because right now I have in Ireland I have just one baseball cap that I wear most of the time, and it happens to be an Auburn Tigers baseball cap that I bought for 25 cents back in beautiful Iowa City, Iowa, before I moved out here to Dublin, and I often get, even when I'm out here in Dublin or traveling around Europe, I will get American, Alabama, or Auburn fans shouting either Roll Tide or War Eagle at me when I have that hat on. And I know I'm bringing it on myself, but I think I'm going to really get it if Alabama does win again and I go around with that faded white Auburn hat. Fits me perfectly. It's like the only fitted hat I've ever had in my life that fits me perfectly. It's the correct, not just the circumference of the head, but also the height from the base of the ears to the top of the head. I do have another fitted cap that's a Cleveland Browns cap that I bought for $1 at a Goodwill. It still had the tags hanging on. It still had the not the new era, but the flip top or whatever the kids are wearing. Yeah. Tags hanging off of it, but it's too deep.
You didn't take the tag off it, did you?
You know what? I did, because I took one selfie with it, because I just recently learned what a selfie was. I took one selfie with it and then decided I look way too much like a tool. It also had the flat bill, so I did the old school put the bill in the coffee cup trick. I don't know if the kids know that trick. Kids out there, millennials out there, anyone 18 and younger, you buy that cap with the flat bill, curl that thing up, stick it in the coffee cup overnight. You got a perfectly curved hat. You're welcome.
They'd ask why are you ruining the bill of the hat? Why are you bending it at all?
You're ruining that hat by cutting the tags off, and then you bend the bill. What the hell are you doing, guy? Yeah, I don't know.
Stop ruining it. And by the way, you severely overpaid for that Cleveland Browns hat. I just want to say.
I know. Well,
$1.
I think it may have been a Broncos hat that they just forgot to put the Broncos logo, because it's just a plain orange helmet on the front. With an NFL logo in the back. So I have no idea. It could be maybe it was a throwback old school Broncos helmet with the old D logo with the snorting horse in it. But I think you're just trying to
cover up. Yeah, I think you're just trying to cover up. You bought a Browns hat.
I did used to have another fitted hat that I got from a Goodwill that was it was Super Bowl champions, and it was the year that the Rams lost the Super Bowl, but the logo had been ripped, like the stitching of the logo had been ripped up, so it was just a blank hat that said Super Bowl championship on the front.
Was it a Rams hat? It was like one of the ones they made, and then they didn't win it?
I'm not sure, but I don't remember the year the Super Bowl number now, but I looked it up, and it was the year the Rams lost. I can't remember who they lost to now, but the logo had been ripped, like the stitching had been cut. So my guess was, as you projected there, Bob, that it was a Rams are the champions, and they just ripped the stitching off and sent it off as a blank Super Bowl champions. I don't know, Super Bowl like 28 or I don't know 39, 56.
They use Roman numerals. It's really hard to figure out what the hell it is. So.
Yeah, I don't know. So sadly, that did not make the cut when I had to condense my stuff down to move from Iowa, beautiful Iowa City, to Dublin.
But the Auburn hat definitely does attract both haters and lovers. So.
I took a Christmas trip to Istanbul, Turkey, and Athens, Greece, and I saw two different American Auburn fans. One of them was a hardcore Christian who cornered me on a bus. Who's an Auburn fan. He got on the bus, and see, I always forget that I have it on. So when I hear it, someone like says it to me, I don't always register what they're saying. Because I'm not I'm not ready to receive a War Eagle or a Roll Tide.
Yeah.
So he gets on it's on one of those janky airports where you don't actually get on the plane through a jetway. You get on a bus, and the bus drives you out to the runway to get on the plane.
Yeah.
So you're packed on this bus with like 90 other people. This guy standing next to me goes, "Hey, War Eagle, what, War Eagle?" And I was like, "What did you say? Did you say where am I going? Like I'm going to the same place you are. We're on a bus to the same plane, kid." He's like, "No, War Eagle, your Auburn hat, your Auburn hat." I was like, "Oh, that's right. I've got my Auburn. That's right." And then I have to give the same tired explanation, like, not really an Auburn fan. Grew up in Iowa. I'm an Iowa fan. This hat cost me 25 cents at a thrift store, and they're always surprised, like, "Oh my God, you got that for 25 cents?" Yes.
Does anyone ever get mad at you for wearing an Auburn hat without being an Auburn fan?
They're never mad at me. They're often confused. So another woman, in the same trip, another woman at the Acropolis in Athens, I was like standing there taking a picture, and she was like, War Eagle? Yeah, War Eagle. Like she was like kind of walking around, like I was standing down there with my husband, and he said, "I think that guy's got an Auburn hat on." And I was like, "No, he don't. He ain't got an Auburn hat on." And I came up here and I had to see if he had an Auburn hat. You got an Auburn hat. I was like, "Yes." And I gave her the same tired thing, and she's like, "Well, it doesn't matter." It's like, "Can we take a picture?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do a selfie. Yeah, come on." Yeah. She was like,
"Wow,
my mom."
So you're a celebrity.
Yeah, I know.
You're a celebrity for wearing an Auburn hat.
I guess. She's like, my mama back in Alabama's gonna love this one. She's gonna take that picture. Look at that. Yes, but I don't know. So I guess we're both picking Alabama with trepidation. Is that?
With trepidation for Clemson to really pull it out. So if Clemson wins, we can say we wanted them to win. So
okay, so we're going ahead. We're just going ahead and pick both teams.
It's like what is it? That's roulette or craps where you can place multiple bets, right? So
sure,
that's what we'll do.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
One of those things.
All right.
We'll hedge our bets.
I like it. Okay. Well, shall we move on to a little bit of NFL news, Bob?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
We'll stay on the football front.
Yes.
We got wildcard playoff rounds coming up this weekend. We have 4 games set. The first of which is Kansas City at Houston. Kansas City's playing really, really well going into the playoffs, and Houston, in that wonderful AFC South, someone had to win it, and they were the ones that did. I think they're on their 20th quarterback of the year so far, and
yes,
back to Brian Hoyer again. But who you got in this game?
That's going to be a little bit of a wet noodle fight, I think.
It is.
Yes. I'm going to have to go with KC just because, as you said, the Texans seem to kind of stumble into the playoffs coming out of that division. Not that KC doing okay, but not anything to jump about. Of course, coming out of the same division as Denver, they had to fight and claw a little bit to get that spot.
Nothing to shake a stick at.
So I'm going to definitely go with KC here, but I think it's going to be kind of an interesting game. Young quarterbacks, going to be struggling a little bit. I don't know. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. I think actually Houston's quarterback carousel is going to be a little bit of an advantage to them, just with Kansas City's defense not being really able to prepare for a ton of different stuff. I mean, they've been playing well over the last couple of weeks. They started off the month a little sluggish again, but that defense has been playing really, really well. So you never know with that. They're a 9-7 team, kind of very similar to the Redskins and stuff. That doesn't really matter what happened in the regular season. It just matters what happens in the playoffs. So I really wouldn't be surprised if Houston won. They are playing at home, which I think in the playoffs definitely has a huge advantage as well. But Kansas City and their win streak has definitely been impressive, and they've been playing consistent good football
Yes.
for a while now. So it's kind of like, I'd like to see Kansas City win, but I think Houston's going to win that game.
Okay. All right. Well, we did run a Sticky Bleachers simulation of that game that we recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel. Unfortunately, when we recorded all of these, due to a boneheaded play on Corey's end, that would be my end, the recording quality sounds a little bit like I'm recording it over Skype, which in a way we are, with not having the same quality of even the $10 little microphone that I have in front of my mouth here today. But in that simulation, the Texans ran Kansas City out of the house on the back of an Arian Foster returning from a season-ending injury to just completely torch the offense. I believe it was the screen game, was it not, Bob, that ended up being the bane of the KC defense?
Yes, I believe the quick screens to Arian Foster himself actually were the eventual demise of the Chiefs, but I don't foresee a Arian Foster or Jamal Charles return for the playoffs.
Yes,
either.
I think our simulation software is not going to quite get that right, at least in the stats padding that Jamal Charles returning from his season-ending injury as well.
Right. No, but yes, I do agree that with the Sticky Bleachers simulation, I do think that the Texans will pull it out.
Okay.
And then they'll be off to where will they be off to? I guess that depends on what happens with the next game, Pittsburgh-Cincinnati.
Pittsburgh-Cincinnati. Well, our Sticky Bleachers simulation of Pittsburgh-Cincinnati had Cincinnati take it 24-14. Of course, that's in the 5-minute quarters version of that game. But if I remember, Cincinnati did really well with their deep threats with a trio of receivers in Hewitt, Green, and Mohamed Sanu, was it not, Bob?
Yes, bless you again. But yes, Andy Dalton again returned, and just like Jamal Charles or Arian Foster, I don't think that Dalton will be back for the game. But I liked how A.J. McCarron played last time out versus Denver, I believe it was, or no, they played last week. But anyway, when the Bengals played the Broncos on Monday night, it was a good performance by A.J. McCarron, and he had a bad second half. I just think the Pittsburgh Steelers, with their experience and Big Ben in the playoffs, I think they find a way to win in Cincinnati and continues the Bengals' playoff drought of wins.
I'm going to go with you, Bob. I am going to pick Pittsburgh as well for the same reasons that you outlined there. A young quarterback. Remember when his girlfriend was the subject of national and international media attention?
Yeah.
Like, hey, this quarterback has a good-looking girlfriend. All right,
yeah.
Next.
So it's the Christian Ponder effect.
The Christian Ponder effect. That's right. Was it Samantha Steele? Who
I don't know.
I think they got married because I think she became Samantha Ponder in the middle of a season. Yeah. There was I'm not sure. Ms. Steele, Ms. Ponder, I'm sorry if I got your details wrong, but I believe that was the case. There was an ESPN reporter. But again, the story of a professional athlete dating a good-looking person is, I don't know, maybe a little tired. I don't know. Anyway, so we're picking Pittsburgh in that one, both of us, picking against our Sticky Bleacher simulation. So we'll see how that goes next week. Looking to Sunday, we have got Seattle at Minnesota in what is going to be a very cold game, Bob.
Yes, and my heart is always with the Minnesota Vikings. So I'll be rooting for the Vikings. I will not be surprised if the Seahawks win the game, but I'll be rooting definitely for the Vikings on that one.
Yes.
What about you?
I was saying we can go ahead and be homers here on Sticky Bleachers. That's one of the advantages that we enjoy over some of the international sports media people. I am going to actually go with Seattle. That was our Sticky Bleachers simulation results. Seattle ran Minnesota out of the house, quite literally. It was Marshawn Lynch to the right and Russell Wilson to the left, and I believe Russell Wilson completed 2 out of 3 passes, and Seattle still went on to score 38 points in that ballgame, Bob.
Yeah. I do think the Vikings will figure it out if they continue the Lynch to the right and Wilson to the left.
Yes.
I have faith on that. But I think the temperature will definitely play in. I know people have been talking about that the last couple of days. I was up at the Giants-Vikings game a couple weeks ago, and it was freezing. But the Vikings, I think they put up 49 that night. So I'm hoping that the cold weather is a good thing for the Vikings, and Seattle doesn't really know how to play in it. So Not that the Vikings have a ton of experience, but I mean, cold definitely translates to more of a running game.
Yes.
Quick passes, short passes, and stuff, which I play into both teams' advantage for sure. And both teams have great defenses, and could be a low scoring game, but it'll be a good one for sure. Very similar teams.
Yes.
Very, very similar teams.
Lots of people clamoring for the days of old when you used to have to play. Yeah. And I have a comment from an article about this game, about the cold on this game. This comment comes to us from Sappy1, who says, I missed the snow games this year with El Nino sending in the warm weather across the country. Football is not only battling your opponent, severe weather is the great equalizer. None the fact the players will be out in short-sleeve jerseys and the fans will be half naked. What do you think, Bob? Sappy1 thinks that none the fact the players will be in short-sleeve jerseys and the fans will be half naked. Is that true of the Minnesota fans?
Well, I don't believe the Minnesota fans will be half naked. They'll probably be bundled up pretty well. When we were up there, they know how to handle the elements, and I don't know if there's any amount of alcohol that can keep you warm half naked in that kind of temperature. So the players and stuff, I found out they have like this balm that they put on their arms and stuff when they have like exposed arms and everything like that. So,
yes.
But they got the heaters on the sidelines, and the other interesting thing was that all the skill position players, they stay on the sidelines as long as humanly possible. Mm-hmm. And the offensive linemen are just out there. They're just like standing out there huddled, ready to go all the time while all the skill position players are getting the plays or getting warmed up and stuff. So it's, it is that kind of like the nostalgia stuff we were talking about with baseball. It's the real game, the real man's game.
Yes.
It'll be a cold game in Minnesota. And then next year when they have their dome stadium, they're going to be playing back in 70-degree temperatures again. So
yeah. So one thing that I am always in today's NFL, especially today's pro sports environment in general, I think the old argument of, well, the guys who stay up there and train up there will have the advantage over the warm weather guys. With so much transience in the league and short-term contracts and players, you don't have the regional players playing for their regional teams anymore, and you really haven't had that for the last 50 years. But they go like, oh, these Minnesota boys are used to the cold. Somebody like Teddy Bridgewater is from Florida.
Yeah, but I do think that that can play into it. I mean, some teams like the Packers and stuff like that, regardless of if they keep getting short-term contracts or something, the core players that stay there can kind of keep that legacy going. And as being a lifelong Vikings fan, I've seen the advantage that the Packers and the Bears have had over the Vikings playing in the colder months and stuff. When the Vikings have to go out of the dome and go play in Lambeau or at Soldier Field, it's almost heartbreaking to watch. So it's been nice over the last 2 years to see them play outside. And I mean, last week the Vikings beat the Packers in Green Bay, and it wasn't a warm game at all. And so they're getting used to it, and you get those units and stuff that can get used to playing outside. I do think that plays an advantage, or can be an advantage to a team.
So maybe it just takes the pain of a fan to really point that out. I was reminded with when you mentioned before about the big offensive lineman just standing out there in the cold. I remember one of the older editions of the Madden NFL games before Madden had a very large speech pack from which to pick. Mm-hmm. There was one that would play in, I don't know, like 1 out of 3 games. He would say something about the weather to the tune of, it's one of those days where the little guys would wish it was a little bit warmer and the big guys would wish it was a little bit colder. I just remember there was just like something, and it was through the Sega Genesis, so it sounded like he was talking into a tin can at a very low sampling rate. Yeah, or on Skype, much like what you can hear at Sticky Bleachers YouTube channel for all of our playoff games this week from me.
Hey, right. That's what we were trying to do, just that homage to the old Sega Madden games. So.
That's right. All right, last game of the first round of the playoffs here. Green Bay at Washington. Weather not going to be as big a story. Couple of teams with questionable resumes battling it out. You've got the veteran Aaron Rodgers. You've got the youngster Kirk Cousins. What are you looking at, Bob?
I'm looking at the last month of both teams. Washington, although they're very similar to the Texans, kind of someone had to win the division, they've been playing very well. I mean, looking here, they've been averaging about 33 points a game in the last month, whereas the Packers have been averaging about 20. So now that's a pretty big discrepancy if you're looking at two scores between their average score. So at Washington again at home, it could be definitely a trap game for the Packers. I don't want to say I'm rooting against them because that never seems to really work out, but I like the Redskins in this game.
Okay, I'm going to go against you, Bob. I'm going to go with the veteran. I know dealing with, a depleted array of weapons. He doesn't have all the same characters that he has had in the past to put up those big numbers. But I think that Kirk Cousins is going to throw one too many interceptions, as he has been prone to do. He's been throwing a lot of touchdowns and a lot of picks, just like Aaron Rodgers' teacher and mentor Brett Favre back in Green Bay. Just likes to sling that ball around. I'm picking Kirk Cousins to throw maybe 3-4 picks in this game. Just one too many for them to overcome.
3 or 4. Wow.
Now, our simulation game was quite fraught with turnovers. Also, our simulation game went to overtime and ended in a 14-14 tie with a lot of controversy and baseball great Whitey Ford getting pelted with pretzels. Listen to on our YouTube channel to find that result. So our simulation was not able to find a winner in this game. What do you think that means, Bob?
Well, I mean, we're still waiting to hear the outcome and stuff, so we might have to just tune in on Sunday to see. But I believe if I remember correctly, that Washington was making a nice drive towards the end, and they were just inches away from scoring and winning that game. So I think the Packers and their offensive line are really, really hurt, and I don't think it's given Aaron Rodgers enough time to get those receivers down the field and make a play like that. And then it kind of stops the run game as well. So it kind of all starts with the offensive line, and if they're banged up and still banged up, it's going to be really hard for the Packers to create any type of offensive momentum.
All right, so there you go. There you have it. Our picks for this week, both in the simulation and here on the podcast. We'll see how that shakes up. Now, next week, looking forward, just breaking today, beep, 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 breaking news.
Why you got to say it like the old news time report?
Oh, well, that's right. Well, we're talking about baseball records. Say, Peyton Manning, not yet born, but we're very excited to hear that Peyton Manning is going to be starting the Denver game, no matter who they're playing in that AFC divisional round, over Brock Osweiler. So Manning coming back from injury, and they're going with the experience over the young upstart, Bob. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's the right call. I mean, the Broncos, they have to live and die with Peyton Manning until he retires. I mean, having him on the bench while they go into the playoff and having Osweiler start, I don't know if that would really sit well with anybody in Denver. If Peyton can be on the field, I think he should be on the field. So
yes. Now, would you say that is a good problem to have if you are a coach or a GM? You've got one experienced veteran quarterback and one talented youngster who has shown poise on the field in his stead.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And Peyton, I mean, he's been an offensive coordinator and coach for the last 10 years now. So on the field, of course.
Yeah, feels like 30 years, but yes.
Yeah, it does. It feels like 30 years. But no, I mean, Peyton's the perfect guy to have in that situation where he can come in there like he did last week and win the game when he needs to. And, he was obviously playing hurt when he finally went down with injury and then, pseudo benched and stuff for Osweiler. But Osweiler's still learning, and with the playoffs and that team, the window is so small, especially in the NFL for winning a championship and stuff like that. And they've been close over the last couple of years. And if anyone's going to take them there, it has to be Peyton Manning. It just doesn't seem right if it's any other way.
Yes.
So Osweiler is the quarterback of the future. Peyton Manning's the quarterback for now. And, that defense, and if Peyton's more healthy than he's been in the past, I think they have a pretty easy road to the Super Bowl until they face a banged up Patriots team. Or, I mean, that AFC, I don't want to say it's weak, but it's definitely not as strong as the NFC with your Carolina and Cardinals and Seahawks playing really well and stuff. You got a lot of teams in there that are scary in the NFC, and the AFC is kind of up for grabs.
That's right. So. I do agree with you there, as does commenter CK, who says, okay, time for a choice here. 1, field general, or 2, field beginner. Need we say more? No brainer. So CK agrees with us that if you've got one game to win, you go with the experience hand.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'd even take 75% Peyton Manning, which it probably is over 100% Osweiler in the playoffs. In the regular season, they had some wiggle room and stuff like that, and they were in a convenient position where they knew the playoffs were pretty likely. And I mean, I believe it was that Monday night game where if they lost, they could have been as low as the 6th seed, but if they won, they could be as high as the number 1 seed, which they were. So I don't remember a time where a team was in that kind of position, but that's the perfect place to have a young quarterback who's kind of learning on the job, and while Peyton gets healthy, and you know, I think that the alleged HGH is working for Peyton again.
The alleged HGH, yes. Speaking of chemical helpers here in football, it is interesting that it's playing out. Hopefully it's not as tragic as the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers situation was, where Brett left us all holding our breath for months and years as he waffled back and forth. We'll see if maybe Peyton Manning can have a little bit more respect for football fans in general when it comes time for him to just go TV full time. He's got that waiting for him. So let's go on to our last NFL topic. Also going on this week, it kind of gets overshadowed by the playoffs, but this is Black Monday week. We're not recording this on Monday, but news, beep, 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 continues to come out. Just this morning, I was sitting down for breakfast with my wife, and my wife says to me, "Hey, Corey, did Lovie Smith coach the Bears?" I said, "Sure." My wife she's a casual NFL fan. She is a big college football fan, but she just recognized the name. I said, "Yeah, what happened?" She was on Reddit, and she said, "Oh yeah, he got fired." And I started laughing. I laughed out loud to myself, and I thought, "Oh, the Bucks. Oh, the Bucks."
Yep. It's they were heading in the right direction, and Lovey was doing a pretty good job there. And obviously, Jameis Winston coming in with all the question marks that the media kind of had on Jameis. He really was a non-factor off the field, which is something to be said for young quarterbacks in this league. Johnny Manziel.
Oh,
and so I don't know. I don't think I'm in the minority to say that I don't agree with the decision. It's definitely surprising. And what are your thoughts?
It is sad to see a coach just not get enough time to build something up. I don't like this the reactionary nature of GMs in the teams that are just struggling, where they feel like, well, I can't fire the players because that's too expensive. I can't fire myself because I can't fire myself. I've got to fire the head coach, as if there's someone else better available who's going to, I don't know, turn a crappy team around. I mean, I don't know.
I think a lot of it comes from ownership, actually, and the GMs are feeling pressure from ownership to make changes. And you're right that it's costly and it takes a lot of time to get rid of the players on the field or to change the personnel. But a head coach can kind of come in there. You know, I don't know if they're gearing up for somebody like Tom Coughlin or something like that. If that news kind of made them want somebody else that was available out there. But it's definitely a head coach has to bring a mentality and a mythos to the team to be able to kind of create those characters and stuff that they need to have to be successful. And you see that with all the teams in the playoffs. I mean, Andy Reid in Kansas City, you got Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, Pete Carroll in Seattle, Mike Zimmer in Minnesota, Mike McCarthy in Green Bay. All those guys, even Jay Gruden in Washington, they brought their system there. They were allowed to win, lose, or die with it, and the players finally bought in, and then it translates into success. And if you don't have enough time, I think they're on their 3rd head coach in 5 years out of the Bucs.
Yes,
it's just really tough for a young team, and for a quarterback like Jameis to learn a system and to have to learn a whole new one. It could go a lot of different directions, but it's definitely not what I would do. So
yes, it is certainly is troubling down there, and the coaching carousel will continue to circle as these coaches bounce around and move around. I'm sure that Lovey will land on his feet somewhere. We'll see after the College Bowl season is complete here what more movement we have there. That's something we certainly can talk about as we get into the doldrums. Maybe we'll finish today's podcast with this comment, Bobby. You ready?
All right, let's do this.
This was on an article about the Lovie Smith firing. Here we go. This is from commenter. Building a fancy new stadium for the Rams in Inglewood is like taking an 85-year-old shopping at Victoria's Secret.
Absolutely, sure.
I think there's nothing more we can say on this podcast.
Yeah. I think you got to drop the mic and And peace out.
Yes. Well, if you liked what you heard this time, we would love to hear from you. Get in touch right now. We are on Twitter at Sticky Bleachers. We do have the YouTube channel. We're also on Facebook at Sticky Bleachers, and we would love to hear your thoughts, your feedback, and suggestions for future shows. And if you have any awesome comments that you would like read, either yours or ones from people like commenter Sappy1 and CK and commenter again. All right, so lots to talk about next week. It'll be the second round of the playoffs, more sports news. We'll see what happens in baseball. Maybe we'll start talking about basketball.
Yep.
But in the meantime, I think that's going to do it for this week from Sticky Bleachers. Signing off for now is Corey.
And Bob. We'll see you guys next week.